Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen. It's the show that uses comedians to review the newspapers for you. On today's show, the word nuclear is now in war stories, which doesn't feel like a good thing. And by the end of it, we'll answer the question, are moths racist? But you could probably guess the answer already. But first, it's the news with Tamsin Roberts.
Thank you very much. Good evening from the GB Newsroom. The Prime Minister has said the world is turning its back on Putin and his regime. In a video message on social media, Boris Johnson addressed the people of Ukraine and called Moscow's actions an abomination. As day 9 of Russia's invasion comes to a close, he vowed to increase sanctions if the violence doesn't stop.
Global corporations are severing ties with Russia. Participation in sporting events is being cancelled. And nation after nation is taking a stand. The vice is tightening its grip, and it will continue to tighten.
The President of Ukraine has live-streamed a message to thousands of protesters around Europe, urging them to support his country against Russia. Volodymyr Zelensky addressed demonstrators in cities including Paris, Prague and Frankfurt, telling them to go out and make their voices heard. As he said, Putin will not stop at Ukraine.
I would like to call upon you not to be silent. I would like you to come out on the streets and support Ukraine. Support our efforts and support our fight. Because if Ukraine will not stand, Europe will not stand. If we will fall, you will fall. So please, don't be silent.
Well, there's been Western condemnation of the shelling of a nuclear power station in Ukraine, with the US saying the world narrowly averted a catastrophe. A fire broke out at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the largest in Europe, after it was attacked by Russian soldiers. The Russian envoy to the UN claims the plant is working and the radiation levels are normal. Ukrainian refugees who have families settled in the UK will be able to apply to come to Britain for 3 years. The UK's initial visa offer was restricted to immediate family, but the scheme has been widened to include parents, grandparents and siblings. On a visit to the Polish border, the Home Secretary said it was heartbreaking meeting those forced to leave their homeland. 1 million people have fled Ukraine since the Russian invasion began. The Metropolitan Police is gathering evidence in relation to alleged war crimes in Ukraine. It's in support of the International Criminal Court investigation. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Russia is using increasingly brutal methods against civilians. Australian cricketer Shane Warne has died aged 52, regarded as one of the finest bowlers of all time. His management said he died of a suspected heart attack at his villa in Thailand. The news is the second devastating blow for Australian cricket within 24 hours, with fellow great Rod Marsh also dying today, having suffered a heart attack last week. Former England and Yorkshire cricketer Sir Geoffrey Boycott told GB News that Warne was one of the greatest bowlers of all time.
If you had to pick players who've transcended above greatness, I would say people like Bradman, Gary Sobers and him. He had a fierce determination to win. He had great skill, great personality with it. And my best compliment I could pay him was say, I wish I'd have been able to bat against you. He said, really, Jeffrey? I said, yeah, not because I think I would have played easily, because I never faced anybody as great as you.
So Jeffrey Boycott speaking there. Well, this is GB News on TV, online and DAB+ radio. Now, though, it's back to headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen. I'm joined tonight by two of the finest UK comedians in this budget range, Sajila Kershi and Andrew Doyle. And good day so far to both of you?
Well, it was until I was outrageously offended there by your suggestion that I'm budget.
A budget range could include top end.
It could.
People have referred to you as that before, in some ways.
Have they? Yeah, I suspect I'm not top end, but...
I think you're top end, and I'm probably more sort of near the bottom end. I think that's...
Middle aisle.
The middle aisle, the middle aisle, yes.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I think you've just proved the point. Let's take a look at tomorrow's front pages. We start with the Daily Mail, which goes with the front, the headline, Kindness Amid the Carnage. Oh, also have a picture of Shane Warne on the front there with Liz Hurley. We go to the Telegraph, which has the headline, PM, we must stop nuclear disaster. Now on to the Independent. Russia's reckless attack on nuclear power station. The world narrowly avoided a catastrophe from assault, UN told. On to The Guardian, where we have a nuclear catastrophe narrowly averted. All not uplifting stories on the front pages, are they? On to the FT. Russia in reckless nuclear site strike. Even they go with that story. The Times has a picture of Shane Warne on the top, but also, welcome to hell, Russians, is their main headline. To the Daily Express, Boris, weapons on way, but time very tight, is the warning that they give us. And the Daily Star, hopefully trying to find a way to cheer us up. They have nuclear nut job in the top corner, but the main story is the greatest. Cricketing legend and all-round top bloke dies at 52. And that's Saturday's headlines. So let's get into the news stories that are inside the papers. As we were saying, it's never nice when the word war is used. It's even uglier when the word nuclear gets involved, Andrew.
Yeah, and unsurprisingly, this attack on the nuclear power plant is all over most of the front covers, as you've just outlined. So the Telegraph has focused on Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson has been warning that a radioactive cloud, that's the phrase he used, a radioactive cloud is threatening Europe. The US declares NATO ready for conflict after the Russian attack. So this is on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and Russian forces have attacked this. And this is now twice, because the Russian forces, they captured the plant after targeting it with missiles and gunfire, which could be apparently a catastrophe 10 times worse than Chernobyl, is what they're saying. And the Russian troops have been advancing as well on Ukraine's second largest nuclear plant in Rivne. So this seems to be almost like a strategy. But what this article doesn't explain is why they're doing it. What is the strategy here, other than to knock out the infrastructure and the power for the local area? Because of course this is so self-defeating. Obviously, if you attack, I mean, as Boris Johnson says here, we have to make clear to the Kremlin that the civilian nuclear disaster in Ukraine, another Chernobyl, is a disaster for Russia as well as everybody. Well, yeah. Because if you attack and blow up a nuclear power plant, the fallout, well, you don't know which way that is going to go. It doesn't respect borders, you know. And what the key point about this, which I hadn't realised until I read the article, is that if a nuclear power plant is attacked and the explosion occurs, and the nuclear fallout were to drift into a neighbouring state, that potentially could violate Article 5 of the NATO treaty. That could be considered an act of war, right? So that's an interesting thing I hadn't thought about. And of course, if the nuclear fallout were to drift to a NATO state, by NATO's treaty, they would be under an obligation to retaliate. So that it's even more serious than just the nuclear fallout question. It could also be a trigger to war. So this is an absolute disaster.
That's really interesting, because I thought that, you know, by just attacking Ukraine, he was kind of declaring war.
Yes.
And my concerns on this story was obviously the nuclear fallout, and that affects all of us. I mean, Boris is, I have to agree with him on that, that's frightening. And I've always been anti, you know, gone down a green common and all sorts of, but why do we have them? Why do countries have them? Why are some countries trusted with them more than others? It's like, oh no, he's got the finger on the pulse. But should anybody have?
Well, it's clean energy, isn't it? It's a more environmental, more environmentally friendly form of energy.
It's certainly low carbon, although environmentally friendly is a tricky phrase because you've got to bury the uranium somewhere.
That's the big debate. But I mean, it's obviously the invasion of Ukraine is war, but it's not war with NATO. This is the slight distinction here. It would be war with NATO if the fallout were to drift.
But he had had a problem with NATO. That was where it all started, wasn't it? So
yeah, of course.
This may be strategic. This may be.
I mean, I don't know. I don't get it because this is obviously something that could easily fall back on Russia. You can't control which way the wind blows.
No, you can't.
I mean, at least the story about the start of World War I is possible to romanticise, but the idea that World War III could be started by the wind being in the wrong direction, it's not a great story to tell our grandkids.
No.
This is the sort of thing as well that's just going to add fuel to the fire in terms of the perception that Putin is just out of control. That this is just a sort of, which I think is a very simplistic idea that he's just mad, he's just deranged. It's a very sort of, I mean, I understand why people are going with that because it makes sense of a lot of stuff that seems nonsensical, but actually I don't think that is true. But this will, people will start to say that more and more.
Do you think this is all planned?
No, I mean, it's definitely planned because they did it. I just question the logic. I don't understand. I mean, that's so obviously a self-destructive move on the part of Putin. You know, that's something that could quite obviously hurt his own citizens and hurt his own standing. And you know, it feels like he almost wants this to escalate even to NATO and bring them in.
You could make the argument that this is almost a PR, a propaganda step, because I fell for it myself, saying, "Oh, the word nuclear is involved now." So it's escalated in terms of headlines.
Well, that's true.
That's true.
And he also, I mean, of course, Putin has evoked the spectre of nuclear war in his speeches, which is never a good thing. And this is obviously a major fear that everyone has. It harks back to the Cold War and all the fears that we had growing up of this, you know, might all kick off at any point. So, yeah, it's not good. And to hear Boris Johnson talk about radioactive clouds, I mean, the rhetoric is just, it's designed to, well, it's not designed, but it is frightening.
Anyone want to buy some iodine tablets? Because I reckon I could make some money on those right now. That's what everyone's going to be going for. To the Telegraph once more, it's a question we all want answering. Is the pandemic over and can I now stop washing my hands? Andrew?
Well, I mean, it's always your choice whether you wash it. I would advise anyway, out of just sheer hygiene, to wash your hands. Keep yourself clean. Okay. Steve, that's what I would say to you there.
Controversial.
This is a story in the Telegraph about Sage being stood down now, which is kind of taken to be the end of the COVID pandemic. This is sort of a major point. And this is part of Downing Street's Living with COVID plan. And it's important that this happens. And one of the key factors about this is that Sage has been continually wrong with its modelling. And Sage has been relying on modelling all the time, which now even, I think it's Graham Medley, who's Professor Graham Medley, the chairman of the Scientific Pandemic Influenza Group on Modelling, which is a subgroup of Sage, even he has said modelling is effectively guesswork, right? And we saw just how wrong Sage were. I mean, before Christmas, they were talking about infections hitting 2 million a day. They were talking about how hospitalisations could peak between 3,000 and 10,000 a day, with deaths between 600 and 6,000. Now, we now know that was way off. And it's not the first time that Sage have been way off. So they are continually in error. They've acknowledged that they are continually in error. We just have to accept that the modelling system doesn't work. But the reason why that matters more is because it directly influences policy. In this case, the Tories didn't go along with the advice, which is actually turned out that was correct. But in a lot of cases, they have. And so, you know, I think we just have to get to the point where we say, Sage, you know, for all the good intentions, I'm sure, they got it wrong continually. And so, therefore, it's right that they stand down at this point.
But is it possibly a misunderstanding of what modelling is, that you can get a range of various models, because some of the inputs, some of the variables you don't know, and that's where the guesswork is, because you can model all these different scenarios. Picking a scenario is guesswork. Is the problem with the way in which politicians use modelling often to get a good headline or to justify something they wanted to do anyway?
No, I thought that was what happening. I think we've forgotten, like, what was happening before Christmas when, you know, it was all strategic. That's not to say that I don't think that hindsight, things were had gone wrong. And, are you going to COVID fair? Parsley, sage, rosemary. We've run out of time on this story.
I didn't realise you were doing a musical theatre.
Yes, musical theatre.
OK.
Need to get
I'm
that song
available.
cleared. Can we do that? I'm not sure. We have to pay extra royalties now.
Yes. But on hindsight, obviously we can, I don't want to play that game. I think I just want to move forward. We've got other things to worry about.
Well,
now.
I mean, look, I think the thing to point out about this is, I mean, you make a fair point. But I would say that, and it's not, I'm not saying we should pin the blame on Sage or say that there was any, but, when Fraser, you remember Fraser Nelson from The Spectator got into a discussion with Graham Medley over Twitter, and he said to Fraser Nelson, well, actually, we were only ever giving the worst case scenario to the government because that was all the government were asking for. So it's not like I'm saying the government are absolved of responsibility here for how wildly things were off.
Yeah. Well,
so.
Hindsight makes modelling a whole lot better. That's what if I should get another job, it will be retrospective modelling.
Just model after it's happened.
Yeah.
That's the way to deal with
a
it.
career. To The Independent, they're carrying the story of a sad passing of a sports legend, and even for those of us who don't know a lot about sport, he, and certainly if we like Liz Hurley, he was definitely a legend, Sajila.
Yeah, definitely a cricket legend. Shane Warne dies age 52. He's the Australian spin bowler, considered one of the greatest cricketers of all time. Died very young age, 52. What's more upsetting is that he only I think it was only a few hours before, had tweeted on his own tribute to another fellow Australian great, Rob Marsh, who was age 74. And then, of course, a few hours later, he passes away in Koh Samui. I can never pronounce it. Koh Samui. Oh, God, I've ruined the tribute now. in Thailand, basically, on Friday. Now, lots of people, it's really lovely because communities have a community. And it doesn't matter how we feel about them when we're all alive, but when somebody passes, I really love how we all come together and we mourn that loss. And it's fantastic because cricketers from all across the globe who've maybe played opposite each other have paid great tribute to him. And of course, I'm not going to find any of those tributes now. There was one from Pakistan, the former Pakistan cricketer Waqar Younis. He tweeted, "Shane Warne, no more. I'm shocked and shattered. Simply can't believe I'm hearing this. Very, very sad day for our cricket community. The biggest superstar of my generation gone. Goodbye, legend, Shane Warne. Rest in peace. Condolences to the family and friends." And that's kind of followed through to, from the India captain, who's truly lost for words, to Ian Botham. So many tributes coming in. And he was known as the king of the leg spinner. And that is a certain way to bowl. And I kind of have a little bit of affinity with this because I played cricket for my school team. I was the only girl that played cricket. Yeah,
What's
Oscar.
a leg spinner? What do you do with it?
Well, I don't know about the leg spinner, but I know about the spinner. The spinner, there's a certain way that you can throw a ball. Now, this is going back to my childhood. You played, and a little kid called Oscar taught me how to do this, and Oscar would teach me every day, and it was like one of those American movies. Like I was like, I can't do it. The ball hurts when I catch it. And he said, no, you've got to catch it. You've got to fight through the pain.
It is like a movie.
It was like a movie, yeah. And then I went and played, and I know you want to hear that. It was wonderful, and I got the wickets, and I got the ball. No, I dropped the ball. I cried like a baby, and no one spoke to me for weeks afterwards. So it was actually, it was.
Hate the ending. No way.
I hate the ending. They'd have to change the film ending on that, but. It doesn't take away from we have lost a great, and it's always sad when we lose a great. And if you love the game, you'll miss him now.
52, definitely no age.
Very,
but
very
whenever
young.
you get a story like this, I always like to try and find the positive, which is imagine living that kind of life, being lauded by people and doing a job that you love, getting to date some very attractive people, and then he was in Thailand at the end.
It's a full life.
Yeah. To fit a full life in, yeah. Let's move on to this. If you are the coronavirus and you're thinking of heading to Wales, we've got some news for you. This is from Saturday's Mail. Andrew?
Yeah, so now Wales is setting to ditch all of the remaining COVID laws. This will be on March 28th, gradually end free tests next month, as First Minister Mark Drakeford finally admits that the country can look to the future with growing confidence. And the focus here on Mark Drakeford. Mark Drakeford's been, as with Nicola Sturgeon, has been very sort of reluctant to open up the country again. I don't know what it is about the Celts. We're just a bit slower about stuff, I think. But I think it's good. It's obviously the way to go. This is an inevitability. It was going to happen. And I think it's great. We are learning everyone now basically shares the view that we have to learn to live with this. and we will be able to, and you know, now we can because we have the milder variant, we have a higher rate of obviously immunity. So this is good news, isn't it? This is all great. And I don't understand really why. I mean, I get the fear. A lot of people have been very frightened. A lot of people have lost loved ones, and all of that stuff needs to be taken very seriously. But now we've reached a point where, yes, we are at a point where we can open up safely, and we need to kind of let some of that fear go, because you can't live in fear, really, for the rest of your life. It worried me when we had the Economist ran a poll last July, and it said that 26% of people wanted nightclubs and casinos closed down forever, and 19% wanted a permanent 10 p.m. curfew, even if the virus were to go entirely. So what that shows is we were in a kind of state of fear that even if we were envisaging a time without the virus, we still want to be locked up. That's not healthy. That's not good for anyone.
No, I think that's just middle-aged people who've done all their clubbing, and now
selfish.
and they're just like, no, I don't like the noise now. I've done my time. Actually, I have to say, I don't know about you. So, for someone who was absolutely petrified for various reasons when it all happened, I honestly thought going for a walk I was going to die. You know, this is how much scaremongery there was, because I've got health vulnerable stuff. But now I'm so surprised at how easy it has been to get out of the COVID mentality and get back to what is normal-ish. And I think the club should be open. I'd love to have a little dance for maybe in the 80s night. I don't know. Anybody want to go?
80s.
More 90s, early 90s.
You're 90s.
I like early 90s house music.
Oh,
I'd
80s
do
is
that.
my happy place.
Yeah.
I think they should be closed down forever.
Well, that's
nightclubs, early 90s house music.
Well, then you're a Philistine.
Yeah. I mean,
What songs are we talking about? 90s? Is that
Pump Up the Jam.
Pump up the jam, pump it up.
I'd let you have some sneaker pimps, but I'm more of the chill out kind of at the end of the year.
Oh, I see. William Orbit type stuff.
Oh, yeah. Massive Attack.
Yeah.
Massive. Oh my gosh, they were good. They were good. If you're listening, hi,
we could have
Massive.
mentioned that on the first story tonight, couldn't we? Into the Express, and stamp prices are going up. Is this anything to write home about, Sajila?
Oh my God. I can't believe it, right? I buy maybe one book of stamps a year, right? So let me just read the headline first. Royal Mail hikes prices of stamps. First and second class hit by major shake-up. So the Royal Mail is hiking stamp prices for both first and second class options the company has announced. Do you know what a first class stamp costs?
Only because I've just read the article.
Yeah, but if you hadn't, did you know?
I would never have guessed that.
Yeah, would you even know? No.
No,
So I'm going to tell you, viewer, if you're listening, viewer. The first class stamp is going to go up by 10 pence to now cost 98 pence, is that right? Yeah, 95 pence.
95.
And the second class is going to go up by 2 pence to 68 pence. That is a lot of money, right? And so I don't know. I think this is a front. I think this is going to pay for the refugees, and then the British public is going to get very angry and say, you've hiked up our stamps, the refugees are coming over here, taking and increasing the prices of our stamps. So I think this is all a bit of a conspiracy. But also, I just think, I'm jesting. Okay, but I do think that it's a really high price to pay for a stamp. And now I've decided that if anybody sends you a love letter, second class, they are not that into you.
But that's a slap in the face.
That is a slap in the face. Second class loves. I'm sorry. I deserve £1 to be spent on a love letter.
But to be fair to Royal Mail, like, no one's writing letters anymore. They're not doing it, so they have to hike the prices up because no one's actually. I think it's great. I miss that, getting written letters.
I do
too. I think there's something.
If you write me, I'll write you back.
Really?
Yeah.
Or I could just give you a letter here. But
yeah, that's true. We're going to save the 95p.
I hear there's this thing called email that you might want to try. If you're going to sit and moan about the price of a stamp, you might want to think about email.
I do feel really old-fashioned about this, but I do think a handwritten letter, because it reveals something about your personality in a way that the choice of font cannot. Unless you're choosing something like Comic Sans or...
that should be like an advertising campaign for the Royal Mail.
Well, what I just said.
Yes.
Yeah, but that was my pitch.
A font, yes. I love that.
Just to push back on this, though, if you had a piece of paper and you thought, I need to get this to somewhere in Scotland by 2 days from now, try and find another way of getting it there then. Like, you find someone who'd take 95 pence off you and say, I'll drive it. It's still
brilliant.
Good value for money.
That is good value for money. That is very
Carrier pigeon.
They are surprisingly expensive. They're very pampered. They've got very expensive tastes.
Trafalgar Square, just go and grab a few to train them.
Yeah, if you never
It
want to
won't
see that
take
letter
long.
again. Yeah.
But also, it hurts to write. It actually physically hurts to write.
That's because you've got used to typing.
Because I'm like, ooh, you know. But handwriting does give you an indication, I agree, that of someone's personality, what they're like. So you can be quite judgy about writing.
That's why I never do handwritten stuff, because my handwriting gives away my true personality. It's the little daggers I draw in places of L's apparently means I've got issues. Interesting. Well, that's it for part one. Coming up after the break, we'll be talking about cancelling Russia, the end of flu jabs, and the end of chicken Kievs. See you there.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before. It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. My name is Stephen Allen, joined by comedies Sonny and Cher, Sajila Kershi and Andrew Doyle, reviewing what's inside the newspapers. Let's go to when it comes to murder of a journalist, won't someone think of the accused feelings? Please, this one from the Times, Andrew.
It's a bit astonishing, this. So the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia has said that the accusation that he was in any way responsible for Jamal Khashoggi, the journalist's murder, has hurt his feelings. And I mean, this is absolutely incredible. So just, I mean, absolutely to clarify, the CIA have said that the Crown Prince ordered the assassination. The Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights wrote a 101-page report saying that the state of Saudi Arabia was responsible for his premeditated extrajudicial execution. The Crown Prince completely denies this, OK? Now, this is what he said. So, firstly, there's a couple of odd things about this. So, the Crown Prince has said it's obvious he played no part. If that was the way we did things, this is a quote, if that was the way we did things, Khashoggi would not even be among the top 1,000 people on our hit list. I mean, that's not comforting. That's not the way to do this. I mean, I just find it's incredible. It's incredible gaslighting. It's almost playing the victim when you've just... Look, I'm not making accusations here, but playing the victim when you know, something has happened of this kind to this poor man. You know, the victim here is Khashoggi, who was dismembered, murdered, and his family. That's the victim here. This is very... And it's very interesting with Saudi Arabia, because obviously the Crown Prince has pushed reforms forward, right? OK, but Saudi Arabia is still not a good place for human rights. People who raise the alarm about human rights abuses in Saudi Arabia often are imprisoned, often are you know, thrown in jail. Peaceful political dissidents, human rights activists. You know, this is not a great place. He's moved things forward slightly for women, but women still need permission from a male guardian if they want to travel or get married. You know, so you know, let's just get this into perspective, what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a state whose human rights record is not fantastic.
No, it's not good at all, and it's scary. And obviously, on another hypothetical idea is that if my feelings were hurt, I would probably cry into my phone, go home, eat all my emotions, and just probably take myself to bed with a fit of the vapours. I wouldn't, in another hypothetical way, think that person's hurt my feelings. I would chop them up into small pieces and put them in a couple of designer handbags and carry them out. Yeah,
I'm glad you wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't do that.
That's really important.
But because, you know, it's my feelings that are hurt. I can't go around doing that.
It's a weird redirection, isn't it? Of like, let's remember who the victim is here. I mean, one of the other things that was very strange, the Crown Prince said that because of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, any person is innocent until proven guilty, right? And he's right about that. Any person is innocent until proven guilty, unless you live in Saudi Arabia and you're a political dissident or human rights activist, in which case due process can go out the window. I can't see that Amnesty would be fighting for the Prince. True, yeah. I really don't.
Well, if he wants a court case, I'm sure people could arrange it for him to actually go to court and have a chat about it. Let's move on to the Telegraph next. And the London Mayor is saving the planet one tax at a time, Sajila.
Oh, Sadiq Khan is escalating a war on polluting cars with ULEZ expansion plan. So ultra-low emission zone will be extended all across London boroughs despite cost of living crisis hitting households. So basically wants to reduce, emissions. And I'm for that. I'm not actually a driver. So it's going to be easy for me to say, I think this is a good thing because London pollution it is really bad. And, forget COVID. Pre-COVID, like the pollution was affecting my son's, lives in Greenwich. He's got asthma.
Yes.
Everyone else has got sort of slightly weak lungs. You can feel it. So I think that's a good thing. But I'm presuming you're probably going to come, because you're drivers, you're going to come from a different angle.
I'd be the person you'd ask for a lift to a gig. So.
I would be yes, but I would like to take public transport part of the way because no one ever comes to my neck of the woods. I always meet them in London. You're right, but you clearly are not happy about this. That's fine.
But in my current role sat here, I'm impartial as to the fact that
but I can tell your face is not impartial. But the thing is,
honestly, my answer would be my car's so tiny, it's ULEZ exempt at the moment. So I'm absolutely to ban the people who can afford good cars.
Well, it's always been a problem in London. I mean, London it's in a basin, isn't it? So the pollution has always been an issue in London. So I suppose that, it's very important to do something about it. And the congestion is sometimes out of control, particularly the other day with the tube strikes. But we won't go into that because I'll get very angry about it. But it's but one thing about this article which I hadn't realised, experts are saying that if you have these low emission zones, because of the growing popularity of electric cars, that's actually going to hike up the congestion. It's going to make congestion a lot worse in the city, and that's the last thing you need. So that's just another side to it that I hadn't actually thought of there.
Also, I'm not going to diss anyone who's bought electric cars out there, but my experience with them is I went to a friend's house and she had a lead coming out, sort of plugged in.
Yeah.
And I tripped over it, so that's a health hazard.
Health and safety,
terrible.
Environmentalism.
And then people telling me that they run out of, lecky on the way, so they've got to go and, because you've got to,
and there's not many places you can plug them in.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Yeah.
You need a really long extension lead to get you all the way to wherever you're driving.
Yeah.
Or charger.
Let's move on to Saturday's Independent next. And my alarm has gone off. We haven't talked about cancel culture for about 10 minutes now. So who's being cancelled now, Andrew?
OK, Russia is being cancelled. And what has happened here is that the former intelligence director, Sergei Narishkin, has talking about how Russia has been cancelled. People are trying to cancel the state. Can I just ask, what is it? Right, so it's Saudi Arabia, Russia. Why are all these people playing from the woke playbook of attacking people, then playing the victim and gaslighting people? This is so weird. So, because cancel culture is a metaphor. That's all it is. It's a metaphor for a kind of a systematic form of bullying online where you don't just criticise someone, you attack, you harass them, you go to their employer, you try and get them fired. It's a metaphor. But you know what's not a metaphor? Is dropping bombs on people's houses, right? So this is just not comparable whatsoever. I just find it very strange. He's actually said, he says the West is trying to cancel his country. He's even called the West fascist. He said this liberal fascist country. So that's straight out of the woke playbook as well. Anyone's a fascist except for you. I can't I can't believe this is happening.
I just love that. I think they're just getting into the whole because there was all that talk about Russia's only managed to get this attack in because we've been so preoccupied by cancel culture and by gender agenda and all these things, right? So I just imagined, the Russians kind of playing the victim and using all these buzzwords like, the West, they are just gaslighting us, And I don't like what they say about me. It makes me feel very triggered, and I trigger a bomb here, I trigger a bomb there, and I think I'm a snowflake. They think I'm a snowflake. No, I am not.
Well, it's definitely the case that sanctions are being felt. That's why they're doing this.
Yeah.
But also, this has become a kind of war of information, hasn't it? The people in Russia don't know. Well, the TV they're allowed to watch is telling them that the Russian army have gone in to deal with ethnic cleansing in Ukraine, to deal with Nazis in Ukraine. So they don't know. And the sanctions are being felt, though, aren't they? They are being felt by people. So I suppose that's why he would start talking about we're being cancelled, we're being victimised, because people have been rushing to ATMs to try and get the last of the money out. Because
but to be fair, did they not cancel the TV station like Russia Today? Did they not? Have we not stopped that?
Yeah, the EU has.
Huh?
The EU.
Yeah, okay.
Has, yeah.
So I kind of just on balance, I'm just thinking he has kind of been cancelled in one way, like the press, and I think that's not a good thing.
On one side, some countries have stopped showing a TV channel. On the other side, buildings were bombed. I'm not sure if balance is what you've achieved.
Well, I'm just putting it out there, just saying that, we would like... I'm not talking about them, I'm talking about us. I would like to know, even if it's propaganda, I'd like to see what they're putting on their
I'm with you on that. I don't think they should be blocking a TV channel over here either. I don't think that's
because that
good.
goes against what we believe, in the West. That's what I'm saying.
But I just wish they wouldn't... it just goes to show when we use the language of cancellation and all this sort of stuff, it can be used against... Anyone can use it, that's the point. Anyone can play the victim, even the aggressor.
Yeah,
pretty
stories in a row for that now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Wow. Moving on to Saturday's Mirror, they have controversial footballer transfer back in the news again, Sajila.
OK, so Clyde terminate loan of rapist David Goodwillie after council banned striker from stadium. So you might remember that there was a civil case against David Goodwillie in 2017, where a judge found that he raped a woman. And the women's... so he was loaned out to Clyde by Wraith Rovers, and the women's team quit as a sort of a protest, and it was Val McDermott, a sponsor, removed her sponsorship. And so they found the solution, which is to kind of loan him out to Clyde. He's now back. We've got the same issue coming up. And clearly, the club needs to make a stance. And it does bring up a question like, if you've paid your dues, do you get to carry on with your life? And I think there's certain cases like this. I don't think it sends a good message to young people who are following sports. So I don't know if you should be allowed.
It's the age-old question, isn't it? What do you do when someone's committed a crime? They've either paid the price for that crime. Do we then, as a society, say, OK, the slate is clean, you can try again? In other words, do we believe that people can change? Do we believe in rehabilitation? And that's the debate here, I suppose. But you understand the strength of feeling, right?
Yeah. Well, as a woman, I do, yes.
We'll see what happens. I'm sure we'll get more on that story. Guardian next. Just when we're all loving vaccines, I was thinking of getting the one for diphtheria myself, just in case. But we're losing a free one, Andrew.
Yes, this is to do with the free flu jabs in England, which are now being... and pharmacists are very angry about this. They've hit out because the government is going to roll that back. So the ministers have decided people between the ages of 50 and 64 and school children aged between 11 and 15 will not be eligible to receive the free flu vaccine. And this is part of the whole living with COVID strategy. The thing about these free vaccines, it's obvious. I would have thought it's quite a good idea for those who want it, right? I've never been for compulsory vaccination, but these, we've always had these flu jabs around winter if people want them, if people are particularly vulnerable, and it does seem quite important at the moment because surely, off the back of the pandemic, our immune systems aren't at their height, right? I'm sure we're all pretty vulnerable at the moment. So, but I think it might be a good comfort to some people to get this done.
Well, as someone who gets the flu jab every year, certain people, I'm always called in for the flu jab, and I think I would be lost without that because even a small cold can compromise me. I'm so witty, and they've said here that evidence shows that people who caught COVID and flu at the same time were twice as likely to die as those who only contracted the virus. So there is an element kind of that's linked to still COVID, although I know we're living without COVID now. And I think it's a mistake. I know the elderly always get the flu jabs, but the health vulnerable have always had.
This is predated
Yeah,
COVID
it's always been there. And I would be sad to not get my flu jab, because also bear in mind we've had masks and stuff which have actually protected us from a lot of other colds and stuff, seasonal stuff, which is it's going to hit us so hard this year now, I think, in the winter. And so it's a kind of a false economy, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to know how much the NHS has to pay for someone who gets flu. Probably not a lot, actually. So in total, on average.
Well, and work hours, you know, because you wouldn't be able to work if you have flu. I mean, especially now, post-COVID, we're going to be a lot more sensitive to people being coughing and sneezing.
Yeah. OK. Well, that's it for part 2. Watch the adverts, buy the things. Join us afterwards where we'll be discussing whether slugs are pests, racist moths, and why cheddar is not the best cheese. Who could avoid that? Come on, we'll see you there.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows. Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before. Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome to part 3 of Headliners. I'm your host, Stephen Allen, reviewing the papers with Sajila Kershi and Andrew Doyle. Now let's go to Saturday's Guardian. And according to the Telegraph, so let's go to the Telegraph. According to the Telegraph, Elon Musk has been upsetting people on Twitter, but this time none of them have been cave rescuers, which is probably a good thing, Sajila.
Well, Elon Musk taunts Russia after they stopped selling rocket engines to the US. So Elon Musk basically mocked Russia as the country said it would stop providing rocket engines to the United States in retaliation to sanctions placed on them for invading Ukraine. Basically, he was talking about the boss of the state space agency, Dmitry Rogozin, and who basically Elon Musk ridiculed after they suggested that the US would have to go in orbit on their broomsticks because they've removed, they removed their engines to, the United States. And so Musk basically turned around and said, "You mean American broomsticks, not just any broomsticks, it's American broomsticks." And he posted a video of SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket launching another 47 Starlink satellite into orbit. Now, Elon Musk, the billionaire superhero, entrepreneur, also publicly offered Ukraine advice on how to best to stay connected to the internet during the Russian invasion. This man is obviously, he is the Clark Kent of
He's the Tony Stark. I mean, of all the things to fall out about, this is it.
I know,
Surely he's Tony Stark.
I know.
He has activated his satellite system over Ukraine, though, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. Yes.
And I think this is why the Russians are saying, getting to. Why is it, by the way, whenever we get these sort of geopolitical crises, they always get reduced to Twitter spats? Why does this always happen? Ever since Trump, with Kim Jong-un calling each other Rocket Man or fat or old, it's like, can we just not do this? Let's just keep the diplomats off Twitter, right?
What was the word that Kim Jong-un used about Donald Trump?
Yeah, he called him old.
Dotard or something.
Did he call him that?
Yeah.
I thought he called him old, and then Donald Trump called him fat. And these are both nuclear powers, by the way. Let's not do this.
They're both right.
I thought you were saying they're both fat.
They're both right. Like, Donald Trump is old and, he was fat. So
he's lost a lot of weight, hasn't he? He's looking great.
Oh, is he? Or maybe that was it. Maybe maybe he helped him along. And Donald's been doing more with his hair.
Fat shaming works.
Yeah, fat shaming works. Yeah,
but I mean, Elon. There are some things that you can argue about Elon's work, but he is great at Twitter. You must admit, he won this argument quite well. But it's the fact that he's being like online tech support for a country on how to stay online. That must be pretty swish when you got Elon Musk helping your emails out.
Yeah, he is good on Twitter. He's like James Blunt. He just nails it every time,
I'm a fan of James Blunt too.
He's great on Twitter.
Yeah, I love James Blunt.
Now, you are made of slugs and snails and puppy dog tails because you are a boy. 2 out of 3 of those are getting a rebrand, Andrew.
Oh, I know. I mean, this is about the slugs and the snails, the gastropods. The Royal Horticultural Society is saying they're not going to call them pests anymore. So, because anyone who knows about gardeners, anyone who knows a gardener, my best friends are gardeners, they hate slugs, they hate snails because they chew through all their plants. They are considered pests, and the RHS, the Royal Horticultural Society, has always classified them as pests and given gardeners advice on how to deal with these monsters. But now they're saying, no, we should embrace them invite them in. They're part of the ecosystem, and they know more about it than I do. I'm sure that's the case because hedgehogs need to eat them, birds like to eat them. There's all sorts of reasons. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't like slugs. I don't warm to slugs as a species. They're a bit gullible. You know how you kill a slug is you drown them in beer. So you can put some beer out, and apparently because they're attracted to beer, but it's terrible for them. I know the feeling, by the way. And they crawl in, and then they drown in the beer, and that's how people often dispatch slugs. But on the other hand, I feel sorry for them. It's not much of a life, is it?
Well, I'm not partial to slugs or snails. However, as a child, I did keep a whole load of snails under my bed in my mum's casserole dish with a lid because she would throw salt onto the slugs.
That's cruel.
But I didn't do it to the slugs. I didn't want to save them. They were already on their way out, being homeless and everything without a house.
I think the salting of
I know. Don't ever go at my mum.
No, I'm just saying she should have drowned them in beer.
She should have drowned them, but
that's the more. At least they go drunk. Yeah. At least they're happy.
But anyway, so I was saving them. I was doing my bit early on to kind of be an activist and save the snails.
Bed move slowly, like 3 years later?
No, but then me and my friends, we would try and race them, but they were so slow, we'd get bored. Kids have got really low attention span, and they don't.
I wouldn't even blame the kids in this. It's the snails' fault.
They are. But it's part of the slime. Then when I got older, do you know they make some face cream out of the slime?
They are a bit gross.
That's horrible. I don't want to put that on my face.
Good for the RHS. They're saying they're trying to do positive PR for invertebrates. Well, look, we should be more inclusive. So maybe they're right.
On that positive note, we'll move on to this is a question that the Mail has been wanting to ask for ages. Are moths racist? Sajila.
Now, moths are racist? The headline.
They're not going to be, are they?
Moths are racist? Everyone's a racist, a little bit racist. Whose is that? That's Tim
Avenue Q.
Avenue Q, yeah.
Oh, right. So scientists officially named gypsy moth spongy moth because its old moniker is a derogatory term for Romany people. I was Googling gypsy because I thought, how bad is it? And it's people who don't have a fixed abode and they travel. So it's like nomad.
It's not, because we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago because of the Jimmy Carr joke issue. So I was checking to see where it is on Ofcom's list. What is it considered derogatory? It's not. So gypsies, it depends on who you ask. And actually, some gypsy people call themselves gypsy, so it's not necessary. It's a bit more complicated than just. It's not a racial. It's not a.
It's not. But we're talking about. Let's face it, guys. We're talking about moths
we are talking
here.
About moths.
So moths, and so it's actually the official name is Lymantria dispar. Is a damaging pest in North American forests, and public awareness is critical in slowing its spread. So I thought, OK, well, if you're talking about people, that might be quite derogatory, but we are talking about moths. So they've renamed it the spongy moth. spongy bob square moth. And the reason why it's called spongy is because it's got like it's the name refers to the moth's fluffy sponge-like egg masses.
Is that not more derogatory?
That could be called the same.
Spongy. It just sounds so undignified, spongy moth. How do the moths feel about this?
I was going to say I think that's important to remember. None of this is about whether the moths are offended by the use of any of the words. Call them spongy all day long, they probably won't care.
They don't even know that they were called Gypsy before. They don't care, do they? But the thing is, the word Gypsy. So I used to wear Gypsy skirts. I buy Gypsy earrings. Is that now?
It's an odd one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's probably something.
And what about Cher's song, Gypsies, Tramps and Thieves?
Oh yes.
You know, we're going to get rid of that.
musical mood
I'm in a
tonight,
very
aren't you?
musical mood today. I love music.
The flip side to this story would be, who cares if a moth gets rebranded? It's one of those that already on Twitter people are giving it some. Oh, it's disgraceful. You can't say anything these days.
Yeah, but why even get upset?
I think that's true. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but I think it's just this long line of this sort of changing to language, finding offence where no one was ever offended is part of a broader problem. This is just, yes, in each individual case is insignificant. But then when you take the whole thing, it's like, look, can we just calm down? No one was upset by this.
No.
So, you know, this is a needless thing to do. And it plays into the hands of more reactionary people because then they can say, oh, look, the whole world's going mad. And, you know,
yeah,
it seems futile to me.
This one is from Saturday's Times, and when I saw that it was a new prison with no bars, I thought, how are they going to have a drink and relax at the end of the day? I may have misunderstood this story, Andrew.
Apparently they're building 6 new mega prisons, right? That's the phrase, mega prisons. And this is HMP 5 Wells, and HMP 5 Wells is the first prison to have no bars on the window. But they're very tough, these windows. They actually say it has a practical purpose as well, because apparently with the old-fashioned bars on the windows, drones can come by and sneak in things like mobile phones and things like that.
That's smart.
So actually, in a sense, these windows are better. They're impenetrable. You can't bash your way through them. There's more sunlight, etc. So it's just a more kind of humanitarian. But it's part of all sorts of things these mega prisons are trying to do. So, for instance, they're having pet therapy sessions for inmates. You can learn barbering skills, all these sorts of things. Thing is, I'm actually all for the idea of you know, the whole point of prison for me is rehabilitation, right? So and enabling people to get back into society afterwards. So all of that seems fine. Some of it is going maybe a bit far. They said they won't call them inmates anymore. They'll call them residents. Again, we come back to the changing of language. I kind of think like inmates is more cosy, isn't it? Like it's like a roommate, it's like a flatmate. It's sweeter. But I don't know. So these mega prisons are just trying to be more humanitarian. I know a lot of people will say, well, prison is supposed to be gloomy. It's supposed to be a punishment. You want the image of the bars on the window to make you feel like you've done something wrong. All of that. But on the other hand, I would always say that, you know, when you take someone's freedom away, that's an incredible punishment that people don't quite understand. That's the punishment, I think. Let's not make everything, you know, I think this is probably a good idea.
Well, I'm on the other side of this. 1,700 capacity Category C prisoners, which include violent offenders and murderers in this mega prison. No. I don't want murderers and violent offenders to have these perks, right? It's not a mega prison. It actually sounds more like a privileged boarding school with like a garden where the kids can come and play and visit. I think prison should be hard so that they don't re-offend.
They don't re-offend?
Yeah,
you want them to become hardened criminals so they don't re-offend?
No, I don't want No, but don't. I had a very logical argument there, and you're just.
But you don't need the image of bars on the window. Particularly, these new windows are going to be more effective.
No, but this is just a cosy ride. People are going to think, well, if I commit murder, or I'll probably end up in one of these prisons. I'll be fine.
Well, go and do a couple of years in there and tell me if it's cosy.
Well, I've never visited a prison. Yeah. I probably won't now.
According to the Metro, the war is impacting Sainsburys, Sajila.
OK. So Sainsburys is renaming Chicken Kiev to Kyiv in support of Ukraine. Have I said that right? Kyiv.
Kyiv, yep.
Yeah, Kyiv, yeah. Kyiv is now used by Ukrainians as isolation of Kiev. And it took the war for me to realise that it was Kyiv, not Kiev. I've always said in kind of, you know, like, to show solidarity, I guess, but also I think for sales as well. Not all the supermarkets have done. Have gone that same route. Waitrose has said that it will not make the name change on their Kievs because it takes time. What that means is it's going to cost a lot of money to repackage things. And they added that instead, money will go directly to support the crisis in Ukraine via a range of measures, including distributing care packages and ensuring that there is child protection measures in place, donating essential supplies to the reception centres, as well as medical, legal and trauma support, which I think is actually a good note for anybody who wants to go out there to help, Ukraine. In the crisis, that is how they should help. Renaming the chicken Kiev, I'm not sure isn't practically going to help us, but if you're donating in some way...
Donating makes a difference.
Yeah,
I think these kind of gestures are very pointless. And there's another element to this which does actually make me a bit nervous because, it's not just this, it's compare the meerkat. The Russian meerkat's been taken off TV. The Co-op not selling Russian vodka anymore. The Ritz saying they're not going to serve a white Russian anymore. There's all the the University of Milan saying they're not going to teach Dostoevsky, although they have backtracked on that now. But all of the, and bear in mind that the Russian literature is so important on a global scale. So all of this kind of stuff is a bit reminiscent of the way in World War II people were kicking Dachshunds to death on the streets of Britain. They were attacking German dogs. I think we need to calm down about all these sorts of. Any association with Russia must be wiped out, must be evil. I just think that's just...
I'm in agreement with you there, actually. I'm in agreement. I mean, and also, that said, I won't be missing caviar. It's minging.
Oh,
a white Russian is a decent drink.
A white Russian, OK. Oh, yeah, because in the Big Lebowski, he always drinks that.
Yes,
is it white Russian? It always looks delicious, that.
It's
I've never tried it.
Well, let's get on to a story which I'm sure you'll fall out about this one. The Guardian, once more. Results from the World Cheese Championship. Were people cheering, come on, bear?
Oh, goodness me. You had to do it. Unbelievable.
I thought about it for a long while.
Yes, you wrestled with your conscience and you just went for it anyway. So this is Swiss Gruyere. Is that how I pronounce it? Gruyere cheese. I think that's right. Has won the World Championship Cheese Contest. Baby Bell didn't come anywhere near it. Dairy Lee stood no chance at all. It's this Swiss Gruyere. It's a particular type of Gruyere which comes from Wisconsin. The cheese contest, was in Wisconsin. The cheese is from Switzerland, obviously. What was really interesting about it, I didn't realise. So the score that this cheese got, it got 98.423 out of 100, which just goes to show how cheese experts are very specific about how good a cheese can be,
Yeah,
so good for them.
Places.
Yeah, I didn't realise that Wisconsin cheesemakers are some of the best in the world.
I have to give a big up to Wisconsin. I have very good friends out there. Hello, everyone. Because I did some gigs out there. All Trump supporters, but they're very friendly.
Did you have a lot of cheese?
I did have a lot of cheese, and I went to a cheese factory. They make curd, and it's like very squeaky cheese. So it's like only in that region in Wisconsin, like a squeaky cheese. It's delicious.
Right.
And I was like, oh God, I'm going to take some of this back home. And my friend said, no. Apparently the altitude in the airplane would have.
It has to be perfect.
May have got rid of the squeak.
Yeah, no, it has to be perfect. Cheese is the reason I can never be a vegan. I think it's incredible stuff. But I say a good époisse for me is the best cheese.
Have you tried cheese strings?
I have tried cheese strings, yeah.
And Darlie.
Darlie. Yeah.
Darlie.
Are you worried if you are into cheese so much? And we mentioned earlier on, Kim Jong-un famously had a cheese addiction.
Yeah.
Are you worried about that?
No, not particularly, because fat doesn't make you fat. So the idea
something made him fat.
Well, look, it's calories, right? Cheese is very full of calories. So if you eat a lot of it, then you will. But if you're cutting back on carbs, you can eat more cheese, and that would be my recommendation. No, I would never give it up.
Never give it up. Favorite cheese?
Favorite cheese? Ooh, Emmental.
Oh. Which again, we could have used.
And I do like that Wisconsin,
the squeaky
cheese.
stuff.
Yeah, squeaky cheese. Oh, so delicious. Anybody send me over to me, please.
It's Edam for the smell every day. Edam's just got the best smell, hasn't it? It just smells a little bit.
It smells quite nice. It's a bit of a vanilla cheese, isn't it, Edam? It's a bit mild. It says a lot about your character that you like a sort of soft, bland.
And it was made backwards on that joke. Well, thank you very much. That's it for tonight. Thank you to Sajila Kershi and Andrew Doyle for making my first time so pleasurable. She's not a phrase I've used for a while. Join me tomorrow again when I'll be here at 11 o'clock. Sajila will be back one more time. Until then, have a good one, and Headliners will be back tomorrow at 11.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion